Hi, my name is Russ. That is Lauren. This is kind of our favorite day of the week for videos, which is times we get to talk about things we love about music. And one point I wanted to make, because we got a few comments about this recently, is people which we love all the comments on the channel that get left, but we had more than a few people be like, hey, why don't you play a clip of the song? Or like, why don't you just play the songs and share and then share your comments? We can't. Because of copyright. Like, yes, we do reaction videos on the channel, but like that's a thing in and of itself. Like if we tried in these videos to drop clips of that's like a copyright battle for every single clip. So the cool thing is the format, the format that you're watching us on, for lack of a better platform, is what I mean. Anything we say about any songs on the channel or albums or artists or whatever else, you can just open another tab and find exactly what we're looking for, or what we're talking about. Rather, you can look for what we're talking about, because it's going to be either on the artist's official channel or someone else has taken that copyright bullet over the years. So not only is this our favorite day of the week, but our favorite topic, or at least my favorite topic that we do 5 songs to start with. We do hidden gems and that stuff. But for me, I love the What's So Great About series because I do it for things like both of us have picked a bunch for the channel. And I've done it both ways. Like I've done things that like everyone loves. And I've been like, yeah, but what's so great about that? Right. But then I like doing it for things that only I love. And I know I'm far from the only person that loves the White Album by the Beatles. But I'm in the minority. Like, I feel like a lot of people, definitely if you say to someone, what's your favorite Beatles album? Like, most people aren't going to list this anywhere near their first. Like a lot of people, Sgt. Pepper's first, Rubber Soul gets up there, Revolver, So anyways, my favorite Beatles record is, and I think always has been, the White Album. I don't remember a time where there was anything else that I loved more than this one album by the Beatles. So I'm going to share with you 4 reasons why I think the White Album is so great. And Lauren, I don't know if this isn't your favorite, probably not your favorite Beatles record, but you like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
You like it a lot, but more than most people I know.
Absolutely. It absolutely has its place, and I love it very much.
One thing, and I'll get this out of the way right off the bat, because most people I talk to that don't like the White Album, or it's not their favorite, they're like, oh, there's too much going on. That's what I love. All the Beatles get their stuff in. Yeah. I mean, everybody. And
even Ringo.
What's fun, I'm not even a big Ringo fan. Like, singing wise, I like drummer. I totally get everything Ringo does. Please don't drop a bunch of comments being like, you're an idiot. Like, I know Ringo's amazing on the drums. His voice doesn't do much for me. But I love Don't Pass Me By. I love Don't Pass Me By. We're going to circle back to the individual Beatles in a minute.
Okay.
Because one thing I want to point out is, and I'm going to go a little off the reservation here, but in years later, this type of same thing would happen on the Use Your Illusion records, where to hear everyone tell it, like Izzy came in and was like, I'm not doing all of those songs by that guy unless all of mine get done. And then Slash came in and was like, well, I'm not doing all of his songs unless mine get done. And then Axl was like, let's do both of y'all's first, but then we're also going to do stuff like November Rain. And they were like, well, I don't want to do that, you know? And I feel strongly that this is what occurred here, because there's stuff that are darn near solo tracks where like some of the Beatles don't even play on them, which I think you were telling me in the car the other day, at least like maybe a John, there's at least one John song that's like just John.
There's a lot of, basically you can think of the White Album, and I do this in my brain quite a bit, is this is essentially like 4 solo albums, like, Frankenstein together.
I totally agree. And that's why I say years later, when I heard that, like for at least a decade, I just enjoyed Use Your Illusion. And then when I finally started to understand more of how it was recorded, I was like, oh, this is a lot like the White Album. Where it was just, and that's one of the reasons why I love that record as well, is because I'm all for how crazy the White Album is, and crazy in a good way, which again, we'll circle back to later. But one of the things, like, Blackbird, inarguably one of the best Paul songs that's around.
Yeah, that's essentially a Paul solo song.
Then you have all 4 of them just whipping that ass on Back in the USSR and Revolution, like you had mentioned to me the other day, more than a few, John, I Will, Julia, like there's more than a few great John cuts here. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is just right there in the middle. Hey, Dark Horse.
It's just there.
Yeah, it's just chilling, being awesome.
I love Piggies.
Oh, me too.
Like,
Well, we're gonna get to that in a different way. If you peek ahead of my notes, it's gonna be in part 3. Bring that
okay.
back up. My second part is all records, no matter who told you otherwise, have session musicians on them. Whether or not people are like, they didn't, they did that all by themselves. No, they did not. Like no professional recording you've ever heard in your life is just the 5 guys you see on the cover, 4 guys, 3 girls, whatever. In the Beatles, of course, there's an army of session musicians who played everything from a flute here to a bongo there. But we're not just talking about your average people here. Eric Clapton sits in on Gently Weeps, and who everyone talked about his solo until Prince came along and just shat upon it years later. I don't even think he was trying to. He just did.
He just, yeah, I mean,
But like Billy Preston is amazing, and he's all over this record, you know. I love, and again, I think that like I'd heard through the years, Beatles fans, correct me if I'm wrong, I'd heard through the years that like George was struggling so much with his being assertive, like people like Billy Preston were there to be more or less come over George's shoulder and go, yeah, you know,
hype man,
and what George said, you know, and I'm. If that happens and we get the inclusion of things like Gently Weeps over it, sure. You know what I mean? Now, the third one, and I mean this in every way as a compliment, this is where we're going to circle back to stuff like Piggies. This comes back again to that argument that people go, oh, well, there's too much going on, or, oh, it goes way too far out. I love the fact that the Beatles are not perfect. Like, people have such reverence, and they should, for their early stuff, for the harmonies and the song structures, and things like Sgt. Pepper and Revolver. But I would argue that most people think of those records as perfect, like that one song leads to another, everything makes sense. I love that there's stuff like Piggies on here. One of my favorite tracks on the record is Bungalow Bill.
I love.
Do you know how many
Bill.
times I will walk in? You know. In public, I'll just be like, "Oh, the children sing," you know, like
funny.
And if you're watching this and you're like, "But I love Bungalow Bill," that's what's great. Other people hate it, you know what I mean? Or like I know people who mega loathe the song "Piggies." And I know a guy who, when we saw Love in Vegas, was like, Piggies is in Love for like 15 seconds,
okay,
and the dude was like livid the whole time. Oh, why'd they include that? That's the thing. Every bit doesn't have to be for you.
Right. And what I like about the White Album a lot is it's and I think this is something that you don't get in as heavy doses on pretty much any other Beatles offering, is there's a very good balance between serious and silly.
Oh, for sure.
There's so much silly on this album, but there's also so much like
within one song you get that sometime. I'll give you an example. Rocky Raccoon. I think Rocky Raccoon is a silly spaghetti western of a song, but with a serious message and like, you know, like a almost Coward of the County type storytelling, you know, like and like, hey, let's all like, you know, be more careful with what we, you know. There's a lot of messaging in that song that I think is lost on most people.
Yeah. Happiness is a warm gun. I just have to say that.
No,
that song's like 3 parts, and he was like, I read a headline,
well,
thought it was
like
funny,
I say,
make a song.
I wish more artists would take these type of risks, especially new artists. You know, like I without being too old man yelling at cloud, everything is so formulaic that I love. Anytime I hear a new artist that doesn't sound exactly, or if someone says to me, one of my favorite things is, who is this? Oh, that's that one person. Oh, that doesn't sound like what I heard from them before. Like that's one of my favorite things to say, you know? So I think it's great that it shows that the Beatles weren't perfect and that they were able to take risks, and they're going to work out for some folks and they're not going to work. More often than not, they work out for me on this record. The legacy of this album. So I want to say I first heard this album back in the mid 80s. Helter Skelter was a big thing. The like coverage of Manson and whatnot, like it had resurged for whatever reason. Maybe the Satanic Panic, I don't know. But it seemed like every 2 minutes there was like a 60-minute special, or there was another made for TV movie. And so around that time, I kept hearing about like the Beatles' involvement in it and whatever. And of course you'd find out that was way overblown. But around that time is when I listened to this record, and the first thing I thought was, oh, this is so much better than to me than Ticket to Ride and Love Me Do and all that. Like it fit more with what I wanted to hear.
For sure.
Right. But more and more and more people now are going back to it. Like back then when I talked to people, they were just like, oh, that album's crap. Or that album's only good for Revolution. Or the only thing that's good on that is back in the USSR. And I was like, no, now, like if you go like right after this video, or if you open another tab and you Google like Beatles White Album, like the first 10 things that come back are like, giving the White Album another look. I'll look back at a misunderstood Beatles record, like the legacy of an underrated masterpiece, or like that'll be like the first 10 things that you see. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being right in the long run.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair, man. Because I mean, like Dear Prudence. I love the story behind Dear Prudence. Like Glass Onion, like that. Julia, like you
Glass
said.
Onion's so damn good.
I mean, it's so good. I mean, but yes,
the song, not the movie.
No.
I'm not a fan of Knives Out, but anyways, yeah, I did like. I don't even know how many tracks there are between the two records, but like I feel like we've scratched the surface with what we've mentioned. We've mentioned less than half of them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the elephant in the room on this record is probably Revolution 9. The Watusi. That's my favorite part in the whole thing. I'm a Pink Floyd fan, so like that's gonna work for me. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know what else to say other than shrug emoji. I'm a Pink Floyd fan. So if you are a Beatles fan who mega loathes the White Album and you are able to express yourself as an adult, please leave a comment and let us know why you vehemently disagree with us. But we would love to hear from people who are like, I'd love it to be like the end of one of those movies where people are like, yeah, I like the White Album too. Yeah. Was it Airheads? I played D&D too. So if anybody wants to tell us what your favorite moment is on the White Album, or what it is that you like about it in any way, shape, or form, please drop a comment. If you'd like us to cover other things in this series, like if you love an artist or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I would love to hear why you guys love them too, drop a comment. That helps us out. All interaction helps us out, whether it's a like, dislike, whatever. If you would, please drop a like on the video. Once again, that is Lauren. My name is Russ. And as we always say, thank you so much for watching.